2009. It was a time of great uncertainty in the world of finance. The global financial crisis was wreaking havoc on the economy, and many of the world's largest banks were struggling to survive. But one man stood out as a beacon of hope in the midst of the chaos: Jamie Dimon. James Dimon has had an impressive career in the world of finance. Prior to his current role, he was a member of the board of directors of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. He's also been recognized for his influence on a global scale, being included in Time magazine's lists of the world's 100 most influential people in 2006, 2008, 2009, and 2011. According to Forbes, Dimon's net worth is estimated at $1.8 billion, making him one of the wealthiest people in the world. On Jamie Dimon's childhood. On March 13, 1956, Jamie Dimon was born in New York City to Theodore and Themis Dimon, who had Greek ancestry. His grandfather was a Greek immigrant who worked as a banker in Izmir and Athens. Jamie has an older brother, Peter, and a fraternal twin brother, Ted. Both his father and grandfather were stockbrokers at Shearson. Jamie attended the Browning School and later majored in psychology and economics at Tufts University, where he graduated summa cum laude. During his time at Tufts, he wrote an essay on Shearson's mergers, which his mother sent to Sandy Weill. This led to a job offer from Shearson during one summer break, doing budgets. After college, Jamie worked in management consulting at Boston Consulting Group for 2 years before enrolling at Harvard Business School, along with classmates Jeff Immelt, Steve Burke, Stephen Mandel, and Seth Klarman. During the summer at Harvard, he worked at Goldman Sachs. He graduated in 1982, earning an MBA as a Baker Scholar. After graduation, Sandy Weill convinced Jamie to turn down offers from Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, and Lehman Brothers to join him as an assistant at American Express. Although Weill couldn't offer the same amount of money as the investment banks, he promised Jamie that he would have fun. Interestingly, Jamie's father, Theodore Dimon, was an executive vice president at American Express. How did Jamie Dimon become the most powerful banker in the United States? Dimon's rise to prominence in the banking industry began in the 1980s when he worked at American Express. Weill recognized his talent and quickly promoted him to increasingly important positions within the company. In 1985, Weill left American Express and formed a new company, Commercial Credit, which specialized in consumer finance. He brought Dimon along with him, appointing him as the chief financial officer. Dimon's tenure at Commercial Credit was marked by a series of aggressive acquisitions, which helped the company to rapidly expand its reach and market share. In 1996, Commercial Credit merged with another finance company, Travelers Group, to form what would eventually become Citigroup. Dimon was initially appointed as co-CEO of Citigroup, but he clashed with his co-CEO, Sandy Weill, and was eventually forced out of the company in 1998. Despite this setback, Dimon's reputation as a talented and ambitious banker remained intact. In 2000, he was appointed as CEO of Bank One, a struggling regional bank based in Chicago. Dimon quickly set about turning the bank around, streamlining its operations, cutting costs, and refocusing the business on its core strengths. Under his leadership, Bank One became one of the most profitable banks in the United States. Dimon then went on to become the CEO of Bank One in March 2000, the nation's fifth largest bank at the time. When JP Chase purchased Bank One in July 2004, Dimon became president and chief operating officer of the combined company. On December 31, 2005, Dimon was named CEO of JP Chase and later became chairman and president on December 31, 2006. Under his leadership, JP Chase has become the leading U.S. bank in domestic assets under management, market capitalization value, and publicly traded stock value. In 2011, Dimon was involved in a high-profile heated exchange with Mark Carney, the governor of the Bank of Canada, where he claimed that provisions of the Basel III international financial regulations discriminate against U.S. banks and are anti-American. In 2012, JP Chase suffered a significant loss of at least $2 billion. Dimon has also been an outspoken critic of the Volcker Rule, claiming that market making is an essential function of the U.S. capital markets. and that the original rules would make it hard to be a market maker in the United States. Despite significant losses and fines due to scandals and bad mortgages during the financial crisis, Dimon received $20 million in compensation for his work in 2013, which included over $18 million in restricted stock. Dimon's leadership style has been widely praised for its decisiveness, innovation, and strategic vision. He is known for his hands-on approach to management, and he is not afraid to make tough decisions when necessary. He has also been a vocal advocate for diversity and inclusion in the workplace, and he has worked to create a more inclusive culture at JP Chase. Exactly how influential is Jamie? As the head of JP Chase, Dimon oversaw the transfer of $25 billion in funds from the U.S. Treasury Department to the bank on October 28, 2008, as part of the Troubled Asset Relief Program, TARP. The transfer was the fifth largest under Section A of TARP and was meant to help with troubled assets related to residential mortgages. Even though JP Chase was in a better financial position compared to other banks, it accepted the TARP funds because the government did not want to single out only the banks with capital issues. In February 2009, JP Chase announced that it would use its strong capital base to acquire new businesses. Although the U.S. government had not enforced TARP's intention of funding JP Chase with $25 billion by February 2009, Dimon expressed frustration with policymakers who were discussing the nationalization of banks instead of taking action. He stated that JP had sufficient capital and policymakers should have acted earlier to prevent the financial crisis. JP Chase was considered one of the healthiest among the largest U.S. banks and did not need TARP funds. However, Treasury Secretary Henry Paulson allegedly forced the CEOs of the 9 largest banks to accept TARP funds under short notice to encourage smaller banks with troubled assets to follow suit. Jamie Dimon is known for his political affiliations and views on economic policies. Although he primarily donates to the Democratic Party, he has publicly criticized some of their anti-business behaviors and attacks on successful people. Dimon has close ties to some people in the Obama White House and was considered for the position of Secretary of the Treasury, which was eventually given to Timothy Geithner. President Obama praised Dimon's handling of the real estate crash, credit crisis, and banking collapse affecting corporations nationwide, including major financial institutions like Bank of America, Citibank, and Wachovia. However, Dimon has often publicly disagreed with some of Obama's policies. In 2016, under Dimon's leadership, JP Chase donated large sums of money to the Remain campaign during the United Kingdom European Union membership referendum, and Dimon personally campaigned with Chancellor of the Exchequer George Osborne against Brexit. In December 2016, Dimon became a member of a business forum established by then-President-elect Donald Trump. The forum aimed to provide strategic and policy advice on economic issues. However, the forum disbanded later due to Trump's comments on the alt-right political violence that took place during the 2017 Unite the Right rally, including the Charlottesville car attack. During Donald Trump's presidency, Dimon expressed support for the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, but criticized the administration's immigration and trade policies. In a 2019 interview with 60 Minutes, Dimon acknowledged issues such as income inequality and the China-United States trade war, while also stating that the U.S. had achieved the most prosperous economy the world has ever seen. Dimon also criticized the U.S. federal government's response to the COVID-19 pandemic under Trump, as well as the state of education, healthcare, and social safety nets in the country. During the 2020 Democratic Party presidential primaries, Dimon expressed his disappointment with the lack of a strong, centrist, pro-business, pro-free enterprise candidate. Although he considered running for president in 2018, he ultimately decided against it. During the 2020 United States presidential election, he has spent decades honing his skills as a banker, and his leadership has been credited with guiding JP Chase through some of the most challenging periods in recent financial history.